familiar. So if you don't know by now, then you should probably get familiar.
Hi everyone, so I just wanted to deck profile my Thunder Dragon Chaos deck for GOAT format, or the April 2005 list. So this is the list that I've had a lot of success with, and I've personally played it for about the past year, making small modifications, especially as Warrior gets more and more prominent. So yeah, let's just get into it. So I play 3 Thunder Dragons. Of course, it fuels your discards, and it's one of the best lights in GOAT format. And then 2 Tsukiyomi. So as you'll see later, I play Metamorphosis and a bunch of flip monsters, so this really combos hard with everything. Plus it's an annoying monster for Warrior to deal with, now that that deck's more popular. And then 2 Magician of Faith, 2 Mystic Tomato. It's a really good floating beat stick, especially for this deck, and it lets you toolbox the other darks. For example, other darks I play include the Dark Mimics and Sangan. So Dark Mimic level 1's really good because in this deck, Chaos Control, it combos with Metamorphosis while also comboing with the Tsukiyomis, and it even tutors into this card, Dark Mimic level 3, which is essentially a Pot of Greed if it was special summoned by these guys, and it's just one of the best floaters. What's also really great about this package is that it makes you really immune to mind control, post side and the mirror. Whereas if they take your Dark Mimic level 1, you can upgrade it when your turn comes around to this, or they'll take this, or they'll take Tomato. And then of course, Sangan, Sinister, Tribe. I've seen a lot of people cut Tribe, and I'm not exactly sure why. I know that it's possibly because it's a water monster, but it does have a lot of applications. It's one of the strongest just normal summons to deal with boards. And for that reason, I think it should be an auto include, especially in slower decks like this, which need the aggression. Then of course Breaker, and for the boss monsters, 2 Chaos Sorcerer and a BLS. And then as for the spell cards, we play 3 Book of Moon. So I've seen a lot of people trying to play less of these, and I really don't understand it because this is one of the most versatile cards, especially in this deck, where you can reuse your flip monsters, block and attack, dodge problematic cards like Sakuretsu. It just does everything for this deck. Turns off your 1000 dice restrict if you need to go offensive, protects your Tsukiyomi. It just does everything for this deck, and that's why I max out on it. And then I play, of course, 3 Scapegoats, the heart and soul of the deck. It protects you while you're getting your combos off. It comes with Metamorphosis. You can do a lot of applications with it. For example, post side, you'll see that I play Creature Swap, and Scapegoat in tandem with Creature Swap is just amazing against Warriors. And then of course 3 Meta. I think Meta's probably one of the strongest cards in the format, but it does brick if you're not maxing out on Scapegoats. So in some regards, I have been thinking about cutting this down to 2, but it's just so impactful every time it gets played. So yeah, I'll definitely have to do more testing, but even just toolboxing into a lot of the other fusions is super beneficial for this deck. And then of course 2 Noblemen, 1 Snatch, 1 Heavy, 1 Graceful, 1 Duo, 1 Pot of Greed, 2 Regeki Breaks. There's an argument for Wing Blast over this, but I think this is better in this deck because it clears the threat, and with a slow deck like Chaos Control, you're really trying to set up the turns, and sometimes you just want to get rid of the obstacle as opposed to putting it back for a turn. And then we have Ring of Destruction, Torrential, and Mirror Force, so that about does it for the main deck. And then going on to the side, so I opt to play 3 Spell Canceller. I think it's the best card against all the cheese decks, including Reasoning Gate Turbo, Burn decks, and the sort. It pretty much, not only does it shut down their strategy like similar cards, but what it does that Floodgates don't do is it gives you a win condition, whereby you can just win by attacking with this card for a couple of turns. And post side, you'll see that we also side into more battle traps, so we can protect it as well. So I just think it's probably the best card against those decks. And then I play 2 Kaiku for any Chaos decks. I usually try to side out of some of the slower cards and put in these guys. We turn into more of a tempo-based aggression strategy post side, especially as they try to counteract the goats and the metamorphoses. And then I play 1 Azura against any goat decks. 1 Jinzo again for burn. I actually don't side this in against Warriors because Warriors puts on a lot of pressure and you usually don't have an opening to tribute summon this card. You really don't have any cool ways to get it back, like Premature Call the Haunted in this deck. So I actually just don't side it against them. I'll talk more about my side strategy against them afterwards. And then I play 1 Eudoria. This is probably the best thing that you can float into with Tomato against Warriors and any aggressive decks like zombies, just because it lets you deal with the beaters while also not losing tempo. You just float onto it off a Tomato, deals with any obstacle. Against Warrior, you just hard summon it and they have to waste one of their monsters, which they run very low of. And then here's 2 creature swap. Again, same idea as Eudoria. They play very little monsters. They have very little counterplay to this card. You resolve a Scapegoat, you give them a Sinister, you give them a Sanguine, you give them a used up Mimic. There's a lot of ways to combo into this, and that's why I like it a lot. The only real counterplay to this card is Compulsory Evacuation Device. Outside of that, there's not many counters. And then I side the 1 MST, still a really powerful card. I just don't like it. Game 1 against a lot of the meta, against Warriors, you'd much rather see a combo piece. Against Chaos, you don't want to be just hitting a random Raigeki break. I just think it's a better card in the side against like burn or for specific situations. And then the way I personally handle the Warrior matchup is I side in 3 Sakuretsu armor and a Widespread Ruin. Essentially my 4th copy of Sakuretsu, although in some cases it's better. Yeah, I just think the best way to deal with them is set a flip monster, let them try to summon Blade Knight or Mystic Swordsman level 2, and then you hit them with one of these. They lose a turn, you flip your monster for advantage, and usually you can steamroll them like that. I've seen a lot of people try and roll Decree, and I did like it for a while, but I think it's too slow. You have to set it for a turn, you take a ton of damage, and then it doesn't really out the monsters, it just outs the back row. And I think the most oppressive thing in the Warrior deck is their toolbox of monsters that they can tutor into depending on the situation. So I just think these deal with it a lot better. And yeah, that's it for the side deck. As for the extra deck, just a bunch of generic fusions. So I play 1 Flame Ghost, 1 Dragonus, 1 Darkfire Dragon, 1 Reaper, 1 Fiend Skull, 1 Dark Bolter. This is actually really good against the like Reasoning Gate decks. It's basically a pseudo spell canceller. 1 Dark Flare Knight, 1 Ryu Senshi, Dark Blade. Again, MVP against the Chaos decks. 1 Ojama King. You can't actually get off that lock sometimes. 1 King Dragon, 1 Last Warrior, 1 Gatling Dragon, 1 Master of Oz in case you creature swap into a Stein. And then 3 Thousand Eyes Restrict. And yeah, that just about does it for the profile. Let me know if you have any questions, and thank you to Jinzo&Tonic for letting me upload this.